it's no secret that mobile technology is becoming essential to sort of everyday life. In fact, it's becoming so essential that it's really overriding a lot of basic tasks we used to perform without really using this kind of technology. How many people in the audience have gotten lost thanks to crummy GPS directions? And how many people actually have more than 5 phone numbers memorized anymore? So this is changing the way we behave, but we're actually lucky because for us, this is more of an inconvenience if we lose battery power in our phones. For mobile rights defenders and for activists and rights defenders out there, they're simultaneously becoming dependent on the same kind of technology as us, but under much more different circumstances. So they're operating in hostile areas of the world, working on projects from mobile health projects to, let's see, what else? Like election monitoring, human rights documentation. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about building applications specifically for this group and why you should care about it. So as we build applications and recommend applications for this group, we think about 3 major components. Number 1 is a risk and threat model. So what risks and threats are these users actually facing? Number 2, what do they need to perform with their mobile devices? And number 3, who is the user itself? So this is what people are starting to think about when they think about mobile security. It's following the same path as the traditional PC security industry in that it's really centered around fears and viruses and malware and all those kinds of things. But for rights defenders and activists out there, their security profile is a little bit different. Because of where they're operating, their risks that they're facing are much broader than the ones that normal consumers are going to think about. And when you think about high-level risks, the broadest one to these types of users is actual mobile networks themselves. So mobile networks were designed and built from the ground up with the assumption that the mobile operator is the one trusted entity in the network. So what happens when that trust is actually violated or not true? Well, you get things like network monitoring. You get things like SMS keyword filtering, targeted service denial, broad network shutdowns. All these things become very, very real risks for these types of users. The second big type of risk that these types of users are facing is around physical security of their local data. So mobile phone seizure is becoming a very, very popular tactic by law enforcement personnel around the world. And if you think that a simple passcode lock on your phone is going to protect you from this type of intrusion, think again. This is a type of mobile forensics device that can perform full physical data capture from 6,000 different types of devices, from iPhones to TomTom devices. It can crack iOS encryption. It can crack your passwords. And it's available for $9,000. So if we know a little bit about risks now, what are the needs? So the needs of these user groups, activists and right defenders, are actually simpler than you might think. They align very much with what people use on a day-to-day basis to coordinate. They need things like access to the web, email, SMS and chat, and then media capture and sharing. But they're operating in this type of environment that's very hostile and has potentially very sophisticated attacks. So they just need these tools, really, to coordinate, but they need them securitized. So we really recommend building and developing and using applications that accomplish this through open source security. We believe that open source security tools can provide a just as, if not more secure environment than closed source proprietary alternatives. So lastly, a little bit about the user. Who are these guys? What are they using? What kind of technical capabilities do they have? Well, the first thing we know about these users, number 1, is design is key. They don't have dedicated IT personnel. You can't design applications for IT groups. Number 2, affordability is absolutely key. They can't afford a pallet of iPhone 4s for an NGO operating in Africa. And number 3, hardware choice is absolutely crucial. Being able to engage with locally relevant hardware for these groups is really crucial. So we develop a lot of our applications on Android because of all the things I've just been talking about. It's the most open source option out there. The hardware choice is immense, both on the low end and the high end, and it's powerful enough in a lot of instances to deal with these great types of technologies. So it's an open source project, but we need your help. Like any open source project, it gets better and more secure and more usable the more people use them. You might be asking yourself, well, how do I align with this type of group? I'm not an activist. But the types of risks I've been talking about are actually closer to home than you might think. Network shutdowns aren't just happening in Egypt, they're happening in BART. US law enforcement personnel are routinely seizing mobile devices on routine traffic stops and copying data. So a lot of these applications are much more relevant than you might think. So if you want to secure your mobile phone a little bit and also help out activists and rights workers in the process, check us out on the Android market. All the apps are free. And if you want to do a little bit of coding, visit us on GitHub and check us out. So we're the Guardian Project. Thank you.